Hey, everybody. Tony George from DocSports.com. The old USC quarterback himself, Sean Salisbury. We're talking college football. And, of course, we can dwell in the misery of your alma mater's game last week when USC got waxed by Notre Dame, or we can dwell on the fact that my alma mater also sucks, and that's the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And they're off a bye week, and they're at home playing Purdue this week, laying 7.5 points. The Nebraska Cornhuskers, who under Scott Frost are 5-14 straight up in the Big Ten since he grabbed the wheel here. Nebraska off a devastating loss, a surprising loss,
Shocking loss.
They were absolutely out-coached, out-hustled, outmanned, outplayed in every facet of the game against the Minnesota Golden Gophers, who, by the way, earlier in the season at home lost to Bowling Green, one of the worst teams in college football, and Nebraska looked absolutely lost. Sean, they're at home against Purdue. Purdue's coming off games against Wisconsin, Iowa, who they upset when they were number 2 in the country by the polls, but you and I knew Iowa wasn't number 2, but going in there and beating a number 2 team in the country was unbelievable. And they also played Minnesota here. You think Nebraska gets it together over the bye week, that all the ailments have been cured in the bye week, Sean, and their ability to lay over a touchdown against Purdue? Your thoughts on this game?
This line bugs me, Tony. It does. And Nebraska, see, I know what I'm getting when USC plays. I've told you that. Well, when we were talking about the Notre Dame SC game last week, I said, I can't pick against my team because that's the hard part of it. I said, but I've lost more spreads in my life, and this is true, gambling on the Trojans, because they don't ever cover for me, ever. They're always on the short side. So I said, you know what, Notre Dame will win the game, but I'm going to take them. And that's why you make it was a low play for me, because I just don't like it. This one, Tony, there's 4 or 5. You know, we always have teams in sports that confuse us. Just when I think Nebraska's getting it going, they play Minnesota. And I think we talked about that on here, and humiliated themselves. Then they get a week off, and I'm thinking, okay, because I even heard him talking about it on game day, Herb Street and those guys. It looks like Scott Frost is turning stuff around, right? And I watched them pretty closely because I like the old school teams. And then I'm shocked. And then I'm looking at this. Purdue throws the ball around pretty well. They scored more points last week than you and I both thought in the Wisconsin-Purdue situation. Wasn't that last week, right, Tony?
Yeah.
The under, and they end up getting the over, I think, at the very last, the last part of the game. So this is so confusing to me about which Nebraska team's going to show up. Seems like a big number to me for a team that doesn't play well against Big Ten opponents. It really does.
Yeah.
But it also, when I see a line like that, Tony, I get confused. And this is one I'm going to wait till it gets closer to the game. But I should defer to you. This is your team and your group in Nebraska. Right now, by the end of this, I'm going to hear your points too. But it seems like a big number. I would lean towards Purdue in this. The hook bothers me as well. You said 7.5. Nebraska's not playing that well, but at home, you know that every now and again, after a week off and a bit of an ass chewing and some hard work, that could, and the physical Wisconsin comes in there. I understand why it's there, but it still bugs me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and a couple of things here. To me, Nebraska is an enigma wrapped in a riddle. You go out, and what Kirk Herbstreit and Lee Corso and these guys say on. No offense, I know you're an ex-ESPN guy, but makes very little sense in terms of gambling vernacular. But that being said, you take a Nebraska team that was basically one possession away from beating Oklahoma down in Norman for the 50th anniversary of the game of the century. They were one possession away and a couple of bad penalties, and they'd have won the game. Then they go play Michigan State, who's number 7 in the country. They do everything but beat them on the scoreboard, and they lose in overtime by 3 to a very, very good Michigan State. We're going to find out how good Michigan State is this week. That being said, special teams blunder, gave up a punt return for a touchdown with less than 3 minutes left. Martinez has a key turnover. That's the theme. Okay, let's fast forward to they have Michigan on deck, but they're playing Northwestern. And they're laying a huge number against Northwestern. With Michigan on deck after a loss, I thought that's a bad spot for Nebraska, Sean. Then they beat Northwestern 56-7 out of nowhere. And then they go play Michigan right down to the wire. And if it wasn't for an Adrian Martinez fumble with less than 2 minutes left, and a really bad call by the refs against Michigan where they gave him a free snap when the clock expired on the 3-yard line, Nebraska would have beat the number 6 team in the country. They had the number 7 team in the country beat. They had the number 3 team at the time, Oklahoma, in the country beat in Norman. I mean, and then you go up to Minnesota and you look like freaking you look like a
dog crap
freshman team in high school that is their first scrimmage. Like
right.
You're doing a soap scrimmage. I mean, I don't what are you doing? I don't trust Nebraska here, and I'll tell you why I don't trust them. Purdue has the number 13th ranked defense in the country overall. They're 9th in allowing only 16 points per game. They're getting back one of their top running back this week. Their fill-in running back has done very well.
A good job, yes.
And the Nebraska defense allows a 66% completion rate, Sean, against quarterbacks. Now, you're a quarterback. You'd be licking your friggin' chops. And I'll guarantee you that O'Connell, the quarterback for Purdue, was licking his chops because he's throwing 70% completions on the year, which is very difficult to do, as you know, in college football or the
at
NFL.
Any level.
Sean.
At any level. Yeah, Tony, about you, and I'll let you finish with this one thing about it. And that's why you said enigma. This team is it's so confusing. Enigma, whatever you want to call it, confusing to me.
Yeah.
And here's Tony, you mentioned all those close games. Here's what I've found. Nebraska right now doesn't know how to win in the end right now. Now, for Scott Frost, I hope it changes. So we can say all we want. They played him, but that's why, as you and I both have talked about, that's why you play 60, not 58, 57-minute games. It's like when I tell a receiver it's a 12-yard curl and they run a 9-yard route. If I wanted a 9-yard route, you know what the hell I'd do? I'd call a 9-yard route. If I wanted a 15-yard route, I'd call a 15-yard route. I called a 12-yard route. Why? Because the time's up with the quarterback, and this is what we're doing. And run a 12-yard route. Don't guess. And it's the same thing here. It's not a 57-minute, 30-second game. We play 60 of them. And I guess until Nebraska proves me right or proves that to me, I don't see them. And against this defense, they will force you to grind it out. Question is, can they? I'm with you. I have a little trust problem with Nebraska closing this game out with that big number.
Yep, and here's the key in this game. Purdue has played a murderer's row of really good football teams, and their number 8 games into the season is 16 points per game allowed. And you have a Nebraska team that is completely undependable, as much as it pains me to say that, but it's true. That's laying 7.5 against a defense like that. It's not going to happen. I think that, the hook on the 7, as you mentioned, that's a bad number. We're betting numbers. We're not betting games, folks. You're betting into numbers. You're not betting into games. The sooner you realize that, the more money you're going to win betting sports. That's why I'm out here in Las Vegas and I'm doing it successfully. Just saying. So that being said, I think the under 52 is in play here, Sean, and I think that Purdue can cover that number. If Nebraska was minus 125 on the money line, I'd be scared to bet them. Forget the points altogether.
Oh, I agree.
Until they prove to me you hit it right on the head. 57 minutes and 30 seconds doesn't count. It's 60. Until Nebraska can put together a 60-minute game in Lincoln, they've played well in Lincoln this year, no doubt about it. It's going to be a packed house. All this, that, and the other. Purdue is not going to be intimidated by going and playing in Lincoln. They just went into Iowa, and if you ever played at Iowa City at a packed house when they're number 2 in the country, you've seen it all. So Lincoln's not going to blow their doors off. You know, as much as we all love our Huskers, this, that, and the other. But Sean and I agree. We think Purdue covers the number, and I'd lean a little bit on the under 52. And I'm praying, I'm circling the wagons for a 3-point Nebraska win here to get back on track, Sean. I'm being a realist.
I'm with 3-point Nebraska win. That for those that are a parlay players out there, 3-point Nebraska win and like 44 points in the game. That'd be great.
Yeah, there you go. He's Sean Salisbury. Check him out. The Sean Salisbury Show on iHeartRadio. And he is absolutely one of the most entertaining and best follows on Twitter and interacts with the average Joe. You know, I know we all know Sean's a big.
Because I know.
Well, you're a humble Sean Salisbury. I've known him since 1996. He's one of the most humble big deals you're ever going to meet in your life. Be sure and follow him at Sean Unfiltered over there. Check out his show on iHeartRadio. Best listen to sports. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck this weekend, folks.